Hello everyone, and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deeply Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 260. Today is Sunday, January 13th, 2019, and I'm glad you could join me today. It is, it's been a pretty chill day for me today. It's always like an interesting thing when you like wake up at 9:30. But then, eventually get out of bed at, 11. So, this is my second cup of coffee for the day. We're going to be living with this mug for a while. My knitting mug, slid and fell and broke with basically a full cup of coffee in it, and it was sad, but I don't know, it's just the case where I really like using just one mug, but I really like this mug. I think this was a Goodwill find, and it just makes me happy with hearts. So another knitting mug bites the dust. We keep trying, but we keep failing. Or it becomes my favorite, and that's the sure way to make sure that it dies. I don't know, whatever. So, I have a couple of things to show you guys this week. As you do. The first of which is going to be my finished object. So this is my Once and Future handspun hat. It is knit out of my handspun. This is a fiber optic cerulean violet rouge colorway to try to recreate my beloved handspun hat in a way that could only be done by buying the same fiber and spinning it again. It is definitely a different hat than the first iteration for sure, but it is a reasonable reproduction. So, I think I was re-knitting it when I had talked to you guys last, but it was the case where I finished this, I think actually before Christmas, put it on, realized that it was the wrong amount of ease for a hat, as in slightly positive. I don't know what I was thinking there exactly. But now it definitely has some negative ease. It also pretty easily accommodates slouch, for sure. But sort of like the length slouch, where you sort of tuck my ponytail down in there. So this is gonna keep me nice and warm in all of my top-down adventures. And I'm glad that I have it back again. So, what was it? Because I was noticing that my replacement hat that I knit with yarn that I got at Rhinebeck, that didn't quite satisfy. What would it be? It is, I think, an alpaca merino base, and the alpaca is just a little bit too drapey for a hat, so it's sort of a little bit loosey-goosey now where it didn't used to be. But whatever. So this is done. I need to wash it because it did get sort of gross and damp. I remember where I was. I was re-knitting the ribbing on this last week. So I did successfully knit the ribbing, and then what I ended up doing was leaving in what end I had just along the perimeter of the hat, and it appears to be reasonably disguised now. So, it's done. So, that means that I only have one work in progress now, which is interesting. It is, what would it be? A big commitment to just have one whip. When things aren't going right, you have to figure out a way to make it go right. So, So this is my breathing space. I am knitting it out of my nest hand spun in the mistletoe and a combo spin of Noel and Yule, or Yuletide or something like that. This is a Super Rush merino silk yarn, so it is very nice. I feel very smug while I'm knitting with it. And I am trying to make the most out of this mistletoe yarn. So even though I have 9 ounces of it, I only have 700 yards. So I am trying to spread it out as much as possible. So one way that I have done that was that I did more, or I started the striping earlier to take the load off of the mistletoe. Another thing, that was actually the big thing there. And this had a little bit of headwinds. What was it? It had a little bit of headwinds this week. So I started working the diagonal section. And I got a little bit past halfway, working all of the stripes across the front. It won't be halfway in terms of knitting, but I realized that I was well past halfway on one side and short of halfway on the other. So I accommodated a pretty big bust adjustment, because I really hate it when I put on sweaters and they're baggy in the back and tight in the front, and the stitches aren't where they need to be. So I, effectively speaking, added 24 stitches to the front of this. And I was planning on decreasing those away. Sort of in the course of like the normal amount of increases and that sort of thing. But what I came to realize, because remember, one side wasn't halfway, the other side was well past halfway, I needed to accommodate that difference in stitches earlier. So my solution, which probably isn't the perfect solution, but it is the close enough solution, was I needed to change my short rows to work up less stitches in the back and the normal amount in the front. If I was going for the ideal, it probably would have been actually swapped, so I'd be working more stitches in the front and the normal amount in the back. But, yeah, whatever. And it appears that it has worked. So I have some marker, like I have a marker for me indicating when I don't need to modify things. I didn't like sit down and figure out if I needed to do so many rows, whatever, 2 in short row versus so many rows, 3 in short row. And it took a little bit to wrap my brain around the different way, but this gave me a chance to better incorporate increases and all the other fun stuff. So, it's not, or what would it be? I will be, so I've already started to take out stitches on this side, and what's nice is that it really is pretty subtle in the grand scheme of things what I'm taking out. And then at some point soon I will begin taking out stitches on this side, and then I will have even counts on front and back for the rest of the sweater. And then I'll probably have to figure out what happens once I start working in the round again. So right now I'm working back and forth with these cool short rows, which, based on the way the needles are rolling, it's a little bit harder to show you. So, there you go. And then I've just been keeping track with my little bulb stitch markers, because I need to occasionally do increases. So not too crazy. So hopefully everything works out on this. I was liking how it was fitting, subject to the awkwardness of having a cable. It's finally sort of long enough now where I can just sort of tug on the cable to make it look right. So these are, I added an extension to the cable so I could try it on. So things are looking pretty good. I am happy with the solution I came upon. I got pretty far into the diagonal stripes before realizing that my plan wasn't going to work. So, not too crazy. Glad this is coming together. I think it's going to be really nice. I made it so that the stripes were starting like a little bit below my fullest bust, because it didn't make sense to start here. Like that didn't look good. In the projects where it was there, it was like, so it also didn't look good to have it like down here, like past the fullest part of it, or like past the bust, so that didn't quite seem right either. So I think this is going to be a reasonable compromise. And hopefully the sweater isn't like too Christmassy. It is knit out of Christmas colorways of Nest, but hopefully the blue makes it so it doesn't seem quite so in your face. So this is coming along. I haven't worked on it today. I'll have to figure out whether or not I continue knitting with the extension in or not. That it may be a little bit too annoying, but who knows. And I definitely have way less of the green now, so much more yardage here, less total fiber, but hopefully it keeps going strong. I am prepared to do short sleeves on the sweater if needed. Would it be part of the motive for making that color block smaller was to make it so that I didn't need as much of the green for the bottom section. Or it's possible that I could just do like the ribbing in green too and maybe have the color block just on the sleeves and up here. I haven't decided yet. So, coming along. It's definitely in a goofy stage right now, but it is fun to knit. I have been sort of like walking around and knitting, and the hat project was fine for that. This sweater is much more complicated, so for what would it be? It requires like light and thinking about things every so often. So it is not doing as well for walking around my neighborhood. So I'm not sure if I need to change that up. Or do something different. I don't know. So I am definitely feeling the feels about casting on my Woolfolk yarn. So that might be something that I wind up and begin. I want to make sort of a close-fitting colorwork cowl with that. I'll have to check and make sure that the pattern is meant for DK and not fingering. If not, I will have to probably modify plans somewhat. As you do. So, that is my knitting right now. I guess I'll show you spinning. So I did end up starting my, my Corriedale spin. So this is Corriedale that I received from someone at Rhinebeck in 2017. I dyed it at Yarn School 2018, and then I turned it into a bat. And then what I ended up doing sort of in preparation for spinning it was that I ran the bat through my disc. So this is one bat that I'm spinning up right now. I ran it through the drum cutter several times, and the fiber has not, or what would it be? There's definitely a decent amount of naps in it, and I don't know if that's just running it through too many times or quality of fiber, I'm not sure. But because of that, it isn't quite as nice as I was hoping for, but whatever. So the plan is right now, or so what I've been doing with it is spinning long draw, because I really like the loft that long draw is creating. And it is, or would it be? It's definitely a very fine fiber, so I'm just sort of letting it do what it may, and then just sort of letting the nips be there. The plan will be to eventually, let's see if I can't show you the fiber itself. So the fiber looks very fun and cool. There's like pinks and turquoises, and then definite, what would it be? Sort of a stormy, like a stormy blue, probably. And then there are also occasional, like, less dyed parts, so like little bits of white and that sort of thing in here too. So it is interesting to spin and watch the colors go by. So this is my first Spin the Bin project for 2019. So I have 3 more balls about this size from the bats that I created. And I'll probably do a bat per bobbin and then ply them together. So I'm guessing it's probably going to be like a fingering weight 2-ply. I don't know. It's definitely it's definitely not my most consistent spin ever. So that is moving forward. It just sort of, or what would it be? Like a pretty good background project. I believe that I had that slated to take 4 months as a part of Spin the Bin, and really what it boils down to is that I don't have a lot of my slots of my bin associated with my fleece project, but it probably is going to be taking the most time, so I don't know why I didn't do that differently. Whatever. So I have probably 2 pounds of fiber total. Not all of that is going to turn into a sweater. Not all of it is going to make it through the process of making the sweater itself. But I did get a little bit further. So I have combed a few more balls of top. That pesky hay out of there. So what's on top is sort of this dark purple color. What would it be? It's made up of sort of like greens and magentas to make it purple, which is interesting. It definitely qualifies under complicated purples for sure. And then I have, let's see if I can get representatives from all of the colors. Here we go. Representatives from all of the colors. So I have sort of this light purple, this dark moody purple, and then this mostly bluey with like hints of purple in it. And so what I'm going to do is haggle these all together when I'm done combing, and that might be today. This is exciting. I probably can't get it all off in one day, because that, like, it hurts to pull that much stuff off of the hackle. But, this is how much I have left. So I think this is about 1 more comb full of fiber to do. I decided to record the podcast before finishing doing that 1 comb full, because I could like just have like tremendous scope creep, but I'll just finish this, I'll just finish this, I'll just finish this before I record the podcast, and it's silly. So I this will take a little bit of work to get onto my combs, but hopefully it'll be reasonably quick to comb up. I fluffed it up quite a lot, and that has made sort of the need for less passes with the combs. And it could probably stand to be further fluffed as well. So it is, these are originally the medium gray shades of my fleece that I have turned purples and blues. And maybe you can see here what I'm talking about when I say purples and greens. So these tips tend to be green, and then the body of the fleece tends to be sort of this purple color, which is showing up much duller on the camera. It should be sort of like a Julie fuchsia. I don't know why it's not catching sort of that fuchsia color, but whatever. So that is apparently or what is it? So that's like broken Wilton black in those various shades. So I'm looking forward to being done with that part of the project. So I can bring my hackle down, set it up on my desk in my office, and what I'm going to be doing is probably taking a ball from each color and sort of spreading it out, and when I pull the top, it's going to be sort of swirled together with all of the colors. So that should be a lot of fun. And then I finally got this stuff dry, so that is showing up fairly true. Maybe not as pink as it needs to be, so those bright fuchsia colors just aren't coming in quite right. So this is a mixture of royal blue and delphinium blue. This one is blacks and cornflower blue, so it's black first and cornflower blue second. And it's a little bit more of a dull color, so it has sort of like a dull purple and then actually some like really bright bits of green in it. And it's definitely, what would it be, a little bit crusty right now, which is unfortunate. So I ended up sort of fluffing this out in order to get it dry a little bit faster and make it easier to comb, but one does not simply. So it is maybe a little bit more challenging to get apart than I would have preferred. And so what I'm doing is I'm sort of taking clumps like this and splitting the locks off of them, and fluffing from there. The big thing there, just making it easier to comb, having fluffy ends to start combing from, definitely helps a lot. When I have tighter, thinner pieces, it's a lot more annoying to comb them. So there's that. And breaking it up, mixing it up, we'll see what sort of color this ends up creating. I think I was hoping for something a little bit more blue, and what's happened is I sort of over dyed the black color, so that last bit I showed you that I was combing now is just black. This one I did black first and then I did a blue afterwards to sort of darken it up a little bit. But I don't know whether or not this just needs like a good rinse, which would undo all of my breaking it up. So this was originally the lightest gray or whitest part of my fleece, and now it's all pretty dark and saturated. So, should be interesting. So this stuff will be the next section that I comb. And we'll go from there. Though I don't know, we'll figure out how to proceed. But getting this at least all processed, or all through the first round of the process, is good. So everything is dyed. Now everything needs to be combed. I'm not sure whether or not this color is going to come true at all. So this looks like a deep blue on the screen. It is really a purple, with like highlights of blue and sort of foresty green that you get from black. So this was mostly cornflower blue, and then I did a final pass, or a final bit with black after I made it so. So this one like really glows and is really pretty, but the camera is making it appear like it is just blue, and it is much more complicated than that, so refer to pictures on Instagram. Like, I don't know if I need to like take a photo of it and try to show the photo. Excuse me. So, whatever. So I will have to figure out what process I use to make sure that I evenly apply stuff on the hackle, but we shall see. So, and if I don't quite feel like hackling today, after I finish the combing, I am going to do a pass of combing all of my waste a second time. And so I have all of the various shades in there. And so then I have sections which are more blues and purples, the light purples, and then sort of these darker ones as well. So I will probably fluff this up into some, or whatever, fluff it up, mix it all up, and then start combing it. And so the thought process there is to make, what would it be? To put together a skein of that combing waste. And then anything that's left after that second combing will go into the bag of shame. I'm not quite entirely sure what I'm going to do with the bag of shame. The second pass of combing is probably more like this than it is top, for sure. And this, I think, started off as roving, so I don't have illusions that it was ever top either. So, so it'd be the case where this is the top, it's the best. These are the seconds, they are okay. And then whatever waste is at the end, I will throw in there. It's possible that after all of that, it'll just end up in the compost pile. I'm sort of, I'm sort of centering in on a plan that what's going to end up happening is that my hackle waste is all going to go into a skein. My second pass of combing is going to have one skein, and then third skein later. I've already made one second pass of combing skein, and all of those leftovers are in the bag of shame. Whatever. So, I'm not sure whether or not I have it in me to do a third pass, but what is left of this is definitely very, very short indeed. I eventually ended up over dyeing the top in order to make a color like more of a turquoise. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with this entirely, but I think a decent amount of this is going to end up in here, and we'll figure out what I do with it from there. So it's just interesting sort of going through and using everything and making some interesting skeins from the fleece itself. So that is that. So we'll see which way I end up going. What would it be? And then I just have to sort of document my waste for the spin the bin progress. But this is my big push. This is part of my spin the bin. It's a part of my Fun Onion Accountability Challenge. It's part of like the Stockinette Zombies. Go along. I believe they're doing a go along. So, you know, it's I really want the project to be done so that I can then move on to the Rummy Fleece. And I do quite ardently love my hand-sewn sweaters. It was really cool this week. I was wearing my Still Light tunic, and then I was caught in the bathroom by one of my coworkers who was like, "Did you make that?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "It's fabulous. It's so professional." And I'm like, like, thank you. So there's just something really cool and gratifying about knitting hand-sewn sweaters and that sort of thing. So, and I do like the larger spinning projects. So sometimes like a single skein of hand spun is maybe a little bit challenging to use and for me to come up with ideas. What would it be? Because like, what was it? So I pulled out my Holden. This is knit out of 100 grams of Black Trillium Fiber Arts. At some point I think I had illusions of designing a sock with this yarn, but I ended up making this instead. Do I have any original designs? No. And these were thoughts that I probably had in 2011, so it's been a while. But it's like just barely big enough. So I do really like this yarn and how it turned out. It was, I believe, a gift from my mother-in-law, so it's navies and then brown, so it's sort of the case where it sort of like matches my hair color, but then also has the blue in it, so it turns out to be a fairly pretty shawl. But this is really the only way I can wear it, so it's sort of the case where I keep thinking in terms of what I like to knit and what I like to have tends to be more 2 skein, 8 ounces sorts of things, rather than 1 skein things. So I need to think about that as I work projects now. So like this project, for example, will be more than 8 ounces, so I feel like that's going to make a good sized object. And that hats are probably the only thing where 100 grams or whatever, 100 grams or 4 ounces is plenty for the thing that you're making. So that is my puzzle. So I threw a poll up in last week's episode thread, and I haven't checked it recently, so I'm gonna check it again next week and see would it be about interest in would it be 2 cal ideas and a suggestion as well. What would it be? Because it feels like it's been a while. I believe one of the options was knitting the Precious. I think that was the first one. And I don't remember what the second option was. As you do. and then other. So, but I'm really curious about what you guys think. What would it be? It has been quite some time since the last one. So, go vote, let your voice be heard. Try, or what would it be? I don't know. Part of it is just sort of lining up with respect to what would it be? What people are interested in doing and having flexible rules, but having an interesting concept. What would it be? I was laughing, thinking about some of the oldest yarn in my stash was like stuff that I bought at the Ding-a-Ling in Lafayette, Indiana, when the Ding-a-Ling was going out of business. And I hadn't even realized that they had stocked yarn. Like, they stocked like Lopi and alpaca yarn and what would it be? I ended up getting several skeins of yarn, but now they have languished. Like foil sock yarn, made in Turkey, that sort of stuff. So it was all what would it be? So I've used some of it. I haven't used all of it. It's not like totally shameful. Like, it's just been languishing in the bottom pile. But that's like sort of, you know what I mean? And I got some exciting mail this week. So I ended up getting my replacement tips for my Xiaogu mini set. So they, what would it be? I have always been impressed with the customer service. So it was a case where I just needed to take a picture of my bent tips, let them know what size it was, and then they sent me a new pair. So I will use this as an opportunity to make sure that I'm much more careful with my mini twist set, just because this, what would it be? This is like mechanical engineering principles. But what had happened was that I had these 5-inch tips. They had rattled loose, because they're really small diameter, so it's hard to get them good and tight. So they rattled loose in my bag. And then I had this nice long lever arm on this super duper thin shaft. And the thinner it is, you lose two things. You have less material there, and you have less geometry. So geometry oftentimes makes things strong, especially in bending. So if you had the same amount of material and it was a hollow tube instead of a little teeny weeny solid piece, it would actually be a little bit stronger than the solid piece would be, because the center provides the least resistance when it comes to things in bending moments and stuff like that. So what that means is I had left these in my bag for like months, thinking I might need it at some point, but really it's the case where when I'm done with these needles, I should unscrew them and put them away, and then screw them on when I'm ready to use them, and I think that'll work a lot better. So I'm going to be much more careful with this set. But it probably is a word of warning that they have like that little rubber thing in order to grip the needles to make sure you tie them down hard. You definitely need it. I've actually pulled it out to tie on my regular set of Xiaogu interchangeable needles, so just word to the wise. I'm going to be more careful with this, but I'm really glad they sent replacements. So that was pretty cool. As you do. There is a reason that not very many people make interchangeable needles in that size. Because, effectively speaking, this shaft has to work with whatever, like a 1.5 millimeter needle, because they go down to ludicrous size. I think 000. I think 000 is 1.5. I didn't bring my setup with me to verify. But, like, once it gets really small, it's hard to have that shaft and have threads on the shaft and have it all come together. So, it's not trivial. I'll tell you guys that. So, we'll see if I can resist the urge to cast on my Woolfolk cowl. There certainly is plenty to do in the meantime. It'll be okay. Don't forget to vote in the poll from last week's episode. So that is episode 259. This one's 260. Turned over into whatever, a new multiple of 10. And at least for the moment, the recording schedule is not interrupted, but I make no guarantees. I may not record next week. We'll see. Bittersweet Level 1 is coming out for a visit because fortuitously, or whatever. Something about he gets President's Day off even though I don't. Whatever. Punk. And then I don't know, or what would it be? I know when I'm currently planning on flying out to San Francisco, I do not know if I will be flying out to the Bay Area before my plans, but I'm really excited. I'm going to be presenting at a conference called Photonics West about my company's technology and a cool way that we've been able to sort of leverage it to work in more extreme conditions than it did before. So, and this is actually the first time, because my company's been hosting like a subsection of this conference for several years now, but this is the first time someone from the company has talked about our product. So there are actually 2 papers from authors from the company, so one of them is me. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and inviting lots of people in the area to come out to see how I do stuff. I don't know. It's gotta be a win-win. Oh well, whatever. So, I'm trying to think if there is anything else that I want to talk about, but it is, I think, or would it be? That's a lot of it. What I've been doing to keep myself company is I've actually started to watch the Knitting Vicariously podcast. What would it be? It has been at least very interesting to me to sort of branch out and watch some podcasts that are not quite so America focused. And sometimes it's just really lovely to listen to someone who speaks differently than you. There's something musical and novel about that I really enjoy and appreciate. So it's been interesting watching Caroline's podcast. What would it be? And sort of meditating a little bit, because I know that I am, or what would it be? I definitely indulge in vicarious knitting quite frequently, because I don't keep many projects going, but I definitely have lots of ideas. And it shifts so frequently as to what ideas I'm actually gonna go and do. So it's been very interesting to sort of meditate a little bit on the potential and what's exciting, and sort of understand that it may not be possible to pull the trigger right now, but it is fun to daydream about. And hopefully you guys get some of that as well. Or I'm assuming that you guys feel those feels too. So where I've been enjoying that, and the nice thing is that she hasn't been podcasting for long, so it was easy to get caught up. So I caught up today. Or yes, actually no, I caught up yesterday. So that was nice. So with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.